Hello everyone, welcome back, and today we are going to discuss the game between Nodirbek Abdusattorov versus Jorden van Foreest from the Tata Steel Masters 2023, and it's the final round of the Tata Steel, and currently Nodirbek is leading the tournament with 8 points out of 12, and on the second position we have 7.5 points with Anish. As we saw that Anish won the game in our previous video. So basically Nodirbek at least have to make a draw to make it a tie break, or else he need to win if he just want clean finish in the tournament. And if he loses, Anish would be the champion and Nodirbek would be on the second place, tied with Magnus as he won the game with Arjun in the last round. So the game is going to be very interesting. I know that mostly everyone in the chess world know that what happened in the final round, but it's going to still, all those who don't know, it's going to be interesting for them, and all those who also knew, it's going to be a very interesting chess lesson. So I think it would be helpful for you as a chess player or something. So it's going to be helpful, so let's check it out. So Nodirbek Abdusattorov with the white pieces opens up the game with 1 e4. He's having the white pieces. c5 by Jorden, knight f3, e6 the Sicilian defense, d4 takes, knight c6. We have the open Sicilian, the Taimanov variation, knight c3, queen c7, bishop to e3, a6, and queen to f3. So I don't usually play the Sicilian, so like the queen f3 is a pretty new move to me. But yeah, queen f3. But still, all those who play Sicilian, I guess that it's still the theory. So after queen f3, we have h5 by black. I guess the best move is to play b5. But okay, h5, long castle by Nodirbek, and now b5 expanding on the queen side. Queen g3 asking for a queen trade, and we have accepted. So yeah, I always say that whenever you are attacking, you should always try to keep the queens on the board. But I guess the reason black decided to trade off the queen in this position is because if you, for example, move the queen, let's take over, like you can't put it on the dark square because the bishop would attack it, and putting on the light square is not a good idea, I would say, because you're simply blocking up the bishop. You can't move this bishop because the g7 is hanging. So I guess that is one of the critical reasons black decided to capture the queen on g3, which is a fine approach now. At g3, bishop c5, I guess it's still all theory. g4 by white, hitting the pawn on h5, and now bishop to b7 by Jorden. Saying to Nodirbek that you can go and capture my h5 pawn, I don't care. We have f3 by Nodirbek. So, like, there are two ways to capture the pawn. You can actually go for capturing the pawn. The best move would be to capture the pawn with the rook. But I guess the series of moves that will continue will rook into h5, gh5, knight f6, hitting this pawn. So bishop e2, knight takes, bishop takes, rook takes, and now e5. Hitting the rook, rook b4, and now bishop c6. And on the next move, black is going to play a5, hit the rook, and then capture the pawn on e4. Like, for example, if I make a random move like g3, we have a5, rook b3, and now b4, hitting the knight, and eventually on the next move, this e4 pawn is going to fall. And it's already fine position for black. So actually, after bishop c6, there is a very hard move to calculate. I guess it's too hard. You have to find the move f4, which is extremely hard basically, because if you try to capture, we have e5, and eventually we are hitting this pawn. And so black is going to play g6, and after fe, dae, and now white can play a4. The basic point is after a5, white can go for capturing the b5 pawn, and there is no d7 pawn, so that after pawn takes, there would be a check and the rook is hanging. So very deep, too deep, I would say. So it's extremely hard to calculate. So yeah, and if you try to capture with the pawn, now knight f6, hitting this pawn, bishop e2, and now simply b4, knight a4, bishop a7. The knight is misplaced. Currently, this pawn is hanging. You can't play f3 because the h5 pawn would be hanging. And if you try to play bishop f3, now knight e5. This pawn is still double attacked. The bishop is hanging. So not a good position, I would say. Black is already fine in this position. So because of these many complications, white decided to play f3, a very fine move, because you can't really capture the g pawn because your rook is hanging. So we have g6 by Jorden, knight to f5 now. Basically, if you try to capture the knight, you lose the bishop. And the dark squares are extremely weak, so capturing the knight wouldn't be a good idea. So bishop takes, knight takes, king to e7, bishop to e2, d6. Very fine move, I would say. Simply not giving your opponent any dark squares. Now g5 by Nodirbek. So the idea of g5 is very interesting. You are basically limiting the knight from the g8 square. The king is on e7, so basically by playing g5 you are covering the h6 and the f6 square from the knight. So yeah, it's a good move pretty much. So yeah, g5, and now here we have f6 by Jorden. Injun is suggesting a move like you can play many moves in the position like a3, I would say. Like Injun is saying that you can play knight f6. Now you should play g5, knight e7, knight d7, and you can play f4, and the position is fine. But guys, you can only tell that the knight on d7 is much healthier than the knight on g8. So I get it was a very nice and best practical approach by Nodirbek to play g5, and after f6 he didn't went for capturing the pawn, but he instead played the move f4, because many players in this position trying to remove the double pawns, they simply capture the pawn and eventually the knight comes out and they lose it. But a very good move by Nodirbek, pushing the f4, limiting the knight, and now we have knight e5 by black. Though the pawn on e4 is now isolated. Rook to d4, rook to d8, rook d1, h4. And yes, in this position there was a very good move from the white side, which Nodirbek wasn't able to find that move. The move was a4, a very good move, I would say. The basic idea in this position is after a4, if you try to capture the pawn, we have rook b4, and the rook is suddenly having an open file. The pawn is weak. So yeah. So the basic point, if black tries to continue with a knight to c6, we have rook to d2, b4, and like knight a2. And basically the plan is another c4 square is a very good square for the bishop and the knight, and it can be very helpful for white. So 2d, so we have knight to g4, knight to c6, rook to d2, rook to h5, e5, very good move by Nodirbek. We have d5. So what happens if black tries to capture the pawn? We have knight into e5, and it's a very strong move. You can't capture the knight because the rook is hanging, and if you try to capture the rook, now we have knight g6 check, king move, bishop into rook, and yeah, like after takes, the materially, I would say black is having 4 pawns. We have 5 pawns. White is a pawn up, and this is a very dangerous attack from the white side. The position is already winning for white. So a very good move by Nodirbek. We have d5. Now knight e4, again a very solid move. You can't really capture this because of rook into d8, knight into d8, and now knight to f7. You can actually capture the pawn, but the line is very complicated. Now black captures the pawn, knight takes, king f7, rook into d8, rook into g2, king d2, and the position is somehow equal after bishop d5. It's too complicated, very hard to find. And if you after knight f6, if you try to go back with the rook, now it's winning for white, because eventually you simply lose a piece. So now Jorden made a move like bishop c8. Now knight to f6, rook h8, takes, knight f6, rook to d8. And when I was watching at this particular point, I thought, okay, the knight is in a good position, but now the most difficult part for white is how is he going to reply, because currently white's pawn on e5 is simply collapsing, and if you try to protect it by playing knight to g4, now again, simply rook h5, you simply lose the g5 pawn. Black is having this open file. I'm not sure what is going to happen. And even if you try to play a move like rook h1, trying to hit this pawn, Now we have rook dh it, and now black is going to capture the pawn. It's a very complicated position, and I guess in the end black is the one who is going to get the good thing. So yeah, so actually Nodirbek also wasn't able to find the best defense and he went for the move rook e1, and here we have h3 by Jorden. So okay, definitely Jorden must be thinking that after knight takes, white can capture the pawn with the bishop, and if he captures, definitely this position is definitely good for white. Knight is very strong, bishop is bad, and yeah, white is good. But actually after bishop into b5, black is having a very strong move, h3. You can't really capture the knight because of pawn push, and in the end you lose the exchange, which is completely winning for black. Okay, not the exchange but everything. Okay, and if you try to capture the pawn now simply knight f3, and you lose an exchange. Also the minor piece is hanging, so not a good idea. So yeah, it could have been a very powerful move, but he wasn't able to find it, and he first went for the move h3, which was blunder. Takes, bishop to g4. The position is equal, roughly better for black, I would say. Rook h4, b3, rook h8. Definitely black is having the open h5, though definitely the knight on f6 looks super piece, but nothing is happening actually. King b2, rook h2, rook e2 takes, pawn push. Both the player, Jorden decides to expand on the queen side. We have this, and we have bishop e2. Not a good move. The best move would have been bishop f3, though still black is better, but a best try would be this. Like after knight f7, you can capture the pawn really, and after takes, you can't play this because of this. You lose the piece. You have to play king f8, pawn push, and you can't really capture the pawn now because now the bishop is hanging and white is making a queen. It's better for white. So you have to find the move knight d6 in this position, and now knight f4, king g7, rook d1 is again winning for white. It's very complicated. You have to find a very accurate move like king e8, giving up this pawn, etc, etc. So yeah, so this could have been the last hope, but he went for the move bishop e2, and after takes, knight f7, everything is collapsing for white. I would say the idea could be simply this, and yeah, he lost a pawn, he lost again a second pawn, and you have this position. He lost the third pawn, and after move number 49, after playing b3, Nodirbek Abdusattorov resigned the game. This is the end. After resigning the game, Magnus Carlsen actually came on to their board, perhaps consoling Nodirbek that he played extremely well in the tournament, definitely, which is very well said by Magnus. And I hope that Nodirbek will come strong, but currently Anish Giri is the well-deserved champion. He became the champion of the first, after so many years, where Magnus was dominating the Tata Steel Masters category. Anish Giri came out on the top on this year 2023, and yeah, so definitely it's just the beginning for Nodirbek. He's going to come out strong. Perhaps his starting days he's going to play next year, and so on. So I hope that you guys must have liked it, and I know that all of you guys mostly know that Anish Giri did win the tournament. So yeah, I guess I'm going to make some of the videos including Anish Giri game, because it's going to be very helpful. And he also made a video with Sagar Shah on Chess India, discussing all the games. So I think you must all saw that analysis, that video. I'm going to put the video link in the description, because I think as a chess player, that video is going to help you, because the ideas displaying by the Anish Giri, like what goes on while playing the game, is going to be helpful for you guys. So I guess it would be helpful for as a chess player. So I'm going to see you soon. Till then, stay tuned and keep watching One Shot Chess.